Hello, this is psychologist Julia Latunenko with you. It's time to talk with you about the non-separated mother. We have already discussed when adult children do not separate from their parents during adolescence, what problems this later creates in their adult life. Today, we will look at this problem from another perspective, from the mother's side, when the child tries to separate, but the mother blocks or sabotages any attempts by the child to separate because the mother herself is not separated. As always, I ask you to subscribe to my channel because there is a lot of interesting psychology content here, and to like this one video. And write in the comments if you have had such a problem with your own mother. Did you feel how difficult it was for your mother to separate from you? Well, today we will start with the fact that an unseparated mother seems to be stuck in the past, and she doesn't see that time has passed. The child is already 20, 30, 40. For her, the child still remains a 5 or 7-year-old boy or girl, and the mother is still trying to control the child, give them some advice, instruct, teach. Despite the fact that the child is already very often ahead of his mother in terms of his educational and intellectual level, has there several higher educations, and the mother there, well, for example, has a nursing education like mine. And I, for example, have 3 higher education degrees, and my mother still thinks that she understands better how to live and tries to give me advice, make remarks, and criticize. That is, such a mother remains somewhere in the past, fixated on the child's age of 5 to 7 years, when the child can still be controlled, when the child does not fully understand where their needs end and the mother's needs begin, where their feelings end and the mother's feelings begin. Such a mother considers her child her property. Why does the mother not let go of her child? Not allow them to become independent, seemingly tying them to her with a sense of guilt. And this sense of guilt is like an umbilical cord, a psychological umbilical cord that wasn't cut during adolescence, when this cord is typically broken by teenage rebellion. The child tries to say, I am independent, I know better, you are no longer an authority for me, which happens quite naturally. That's why parents say, oh dear, what a terrible teenage period this is, and they try to break the child, break their will, forbid them from being independent, instill in them that they are nothing, incapable of anything on their own, and can't do anything without their parents. Why do parents do this? Because they actually don't let go of their significance, because in the lives of such parents there is usually nothing interesting, no personal endeavor to which they dedicate their entire lives. They are internally empty. Often these are narcissistic parents who try to fill their inner emptiness with their children. And the more boring and empty the life of such a person is, the more they cling to their child and try to elevate their own significance, considering themselves a heroic mother or a heroic father. Well, this mostly concerns mothers, because more often than not, it is the mother who blocks the child's separation process, not being ready to separate herself. You know, when my son turned 16, he somewhat jokingly, somewhat seriously said to me, you know, Mommy, I'm an adult now. You're in second place for me. Girls are now in first place for me. And you, please focus on your boyfriends. They are now in first place for you, and I want to be in second place. So intuitively, the child felt that he needed to separate, and the mother also needed to separate. As one of my psychotherapy teachers said when a child turns about 14 or 15 years old, the mother should slightly reduce her presence in the child's life, tone down her intrusive, attacking love a bit, and either focus on herself, pay attention to what fills her life, or turn her attention to her partner. It's good if it's the husband, if it's the father of the child, but it usually happens that by the time the children grow up, the relationship between the mother and father has already become quite uninteresting, marred by many grievances and a lack of shared interests. So my teacher said, well, if not the father, then maybe it's better to get a lover than to attack and smother your child with love to death. So I really understand what my son told me. He asked in this way to give him distance, to give him space for the development of his adult consciousness, his adult independent life. And I wasn't offended by this at all. I was even pleased that my child feels so keenly his path of internal psychological development. But most mothers, on the contrary, do not want to distance themselves from their children. They cling to their children's lives with a death grip. They call every day they pursue the child. They engage in parental stalking. Why didn't you call me? Why don't you call every day? They make their children feel guilty. Children don't want to call every day. It annoys them. But to avoid feeling guilty, children call these mothers against their will, just to check the box, to get rid of that guilt that the mother instills in the child if the child doesn't pay enough attention to her by her standards. But the thing is, the child doesn't owe their mother anything, because the child didn't ask for this life. This life was given just to the child by the mother, by her own choice. It was a gift, not a debt. And it usually seems that an unseparated mother supposedly wants to reclaim that debt she gave. But let's look at what most mothers give to their children to make sure they are clothed, dressed, and they pay for various developmental activities, ensure they do well in school, but emotionally they never become real mothers. Emotionally, they can be cold, they can be anxious, they can violate the child's boundaries, considering the child their property. They even inflate their significance in the role of a mother. Such mothers identify themselves with the role of a mother. They stop being individuals. Because I am a heroic mother, I gave birth to you. And this is the only achievement such a person clings to if they have no other achievements, no creativity, no interesting pursuits, not enough contacts, hobbies, nothing to fill their life with. Such a mother will cling to her role as a mother because it's the only thing she has and supposedly can respect herself for. But to reproduce, dress, and feed a child is, in principle, a very low level. It's an animalistic level, just to ensure the child survives. But a true mother pays attention to the child's emotional sphere. She builds an attachment in such a way that later in adolescence, the child can separate painlessly. However, the mother herself does not have a healthy type of attachment. So she creates a dependency with her child. And so when the child grows up, the mother becomes almost obsessed. She blames the child for not calling enough times or not visiting enough times or not showing enough interest in the mother. Often such parents say, well, you should call, we are getting old. But when you start doing all this archaeological research, it turns out that such parents could have been very indifferent and cold during childhood. And it never occurred to them that the child needed love, warmth, and hugs. They were busy with their gardens, their work, and their arguments with each other, indifferent to the child. And they have no understanding of what seed they have sown in that soil from which they later expect something to grow, but nothing grows there except the child's sense of guilt. Such a child can be permanently bound by this feeling of guilt. The child takes on the responsibility for the parents' feelings. They serve is becoming a sort of servant to their parents, burdened with the responsibility of being a mother or father to their own parents. In other words, the roles are reversed. The parents provoke their child to take on the parental responsibility for them. In other words, they want to become children to their own children. Why? Because of old age, because they cannot imagine their old age as being lively, healthy, joyful, fulfilling, and interesting. In other words, old age is, in principle, the result and metaphor of how a person has lived their life. And if in old age a person begins to suffer from severe illnesses, it means that emotionally the person was unwell their entire life. Mentally, the person was unwell. If in old age a person begins to develop dementia, it means that the person lived their life like a mad person. If in old age the knees start to hurt, it means that the person was rigid in their life. Well, what does the word rigid mean? If not inflexible, just stubborn, not flexible. They couldn't look at themselves critically, change their opinion or attitude towards themselves. Only this way and no other. Then the spine starts to hurt. The joints of such a person start to hurt. In other words, old age is a metaphor for how a person has lived their life. And when old age comes, a person begins to fear helplessness and illness greatly, because they intuitively know that illnesses lie ahead, as their life was not healthy. Such a person, mother or father, starts to become very good. And then the child says, well, he or she has changed a lot. Mom has changed closer to old age. She has become softer, better. She no longer yells, but she needs attention. She needs to be called. She simply gets offended when the child doesn't pay attention. Why is it so? Why does this happen as one gets older? Because the truth, such a mom is afraid of being left without a caregiver in old age. And this is actually not such an unnatural softening, but a softening of character caused by the fear of helplessness in old age. So this is not true. Such softening and such niceness are related to the fear of old age and the need to have a caregiver just in case. Therefore, such a mom will be intrusive, will evoke pity in the child, and will manipulate that pity. Oh, I am miserable. As my mother says, I am used up, now I am needed by no one. I am a heroic mother, I did everything. I loved my children so much. And when you start reminding her, how did you love your children? You beat them harshly, you scolded them harshly. But, well, the brain of such a person is arranged in such a way that they start gaslighting and saying, no, that didn't happen. No, you made it all up. I am a heroic mother, and that's it. And the psyche of such a person begins to serve the need to have a caretaker in old age. Although, can they really count on this when they have sown indifference and were not normal, psychologically healthy parents at all, when the child grew up haphazardly like a weed in a garden. This is one of the forms of a mother's lack of separation, which manifests in evoking pity and manipulating through pity. But there is another variant of manifestations of an unseparated mother, which I will add now. But before I continue my video, as always, I ask you to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Don't forget, it's very important. So the second type of unseparated mother is a more aggressive, attacking mother. She intrudes into her child's life. She continues to give advice. She continues to visit unannounced, even without warning that she will come over. She takes charge in her child's home. She acts as if she is in control. She cannot allow, for example, if she is the mother of a son, she cannot accept that any other woman would become more important than her. And such a mother will try to psychologically occupy the space where another woman should be, namely her son's chosen partner. She will fill and close off that space with herself. No, she is the main woman in her son's life. Such sons say that there is only one mother in life, but there can be many women. And this is such a devaluation of the person who is beside you. Very often, all those problems that the boy had with his mother in childhood flow like a stream into the relationships with his wife or the partner he has chosen for life. That is, all the negative projections go to the wife, so to speak, while the mother remains idealized on a pedestal. This is mom. Mother is sacred. That's it. But, well, and the mother still doesn't, as if she doesn't let go of her son. She may attack her daughter-in-law, being quite aggressive, a tough mother-in-law who protects her son from the daughter-in-law like an eagle, instead of just leaving the son and daughter-in-law to live their own lives and build their own boundaries. No, such a mother will be an active participant in all the events of the young family. She will break the family's boundaries. She will influence her son and instill in him that his chosen one is unworthy of him, that he deserves better. And the son will look for a woman in his life who will strongly remind him of his palm mother. Therefore, non-separated mothers are actually like a cancerous tumor on the body of a young family. In general, I do not advise young couples to rush into introducing each other to their families and doing this or show off thing like, I'll introduce you to my mom. This is a very alarming signal. When a guy takes his girlfriend to be evaluated, yes, for his mom to assess her future daughter-in-law, this is all a very foolish sign and poor taste, because a mother does not have the authority to evaluate. You chose, it's your choice. Build a relationship with this girl, with this woman. The mother has nothing to do with it at all. The mother has her own husband. Let her build a relationship with her husband. From my experience, the later you meet your husband's or partner's mother, the better. This also applies in the reverse direction. Men who are in a hurry to meet the mother-in-law, I think that a couple should first establish their own boundaries, feel these boundaries between their young family and their parental families. And only after that, if there is such a need at all, get to know each other's parents. But this should be after some time. Don't rush to do this. Yes, of course, parents will be offended because, as we know, they need their entertainment from their children's lives. And this entertainment very often disrupts the lives of the children because parents are too involved in the life of the young couple. And very often, mothers of sons compete with their daughters-in-law. Who is the better wife for my boy? Who is the better mother for my grandson? Therefore, try to depend as little as possible on your parents when you are already building your young family. Any form of dependencies now will lead to your family potentially being destroyed from the outside by the presence of non-separated parents in your life. So subscribe to my channel, like this video, it's very important, and write in the comments if you've had such a problem with a non-separated mother or father. But more often, we deal with mothers who sabotage the separation of their children and very often interfere in their child's life, become intrusive, demand attention and blame. Do you have such problems? How did you deal with these problems?